Well, good morning. It looks like we have most of our attendees who have come in from the waiting room. I'm David Deggs. I lead the Higher Education and Workforce Development portfolio at Educate Texas, which includes TxCAN, which I know many of you today are members of our coalition working to improve student access and transition to college. We're very appreciative to our colleagues at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board who have agreed to provide an update on TASFA and Apply Texas. And I know this training comes just in time as the new school year starts and college advisors and counselors and other folks are beginning to work with students on preparing for their transition to college next year. Without any further ado, I will turn it over to Andrea and her team to begin our conversation today.
Thank you, David. Yes, we really do value our continued relationship and partnership with TxCAN. As education is continuously evolving, it is so great to be able to collaborate with your team to ensure that we are keeping all of our networks up to date. I'm Andrea Panter. I am the Director of Professional Learning and Engagement, and I have the privilege of working with Lauren Disher, our Senior Network Coordinator, and our newest member of the team, Josh Garcia. He's our Implementation Coordinator who just started with us last month. And we have two amazing guest speakers today that I'll allow them to, or you guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Good morning, I'm Claudette Jenks, Director of Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships here at the Coordinating Board, and I primarily oversee Apply Texas.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Giselle Martinez, and I have a new title. It's pretty recent. I'm a technical writer over at the Resource Development Division at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board.
Congratulations, Giselle. Again, welcome and good morning. Thank you for joining the TASFA application and ApplyTexas Counselor Suite session. We look forward to this session each year, or at least I do personally, where we can collaborate with TxCAN and to bring you just the latest updates on our TASFA information as well as ApplyTexas Counselor Suite. And just a quick agenda. Giselle will be sharing an overview of the TASFA and some important reminders, and then Claudette's going to dive into the ApplyTexas Counselor Suite and share some insights there. And then we have some exciting new modules within our Academy. So Josh will be highlighting some of those with our Academy Spotlight. So you'll be able to have further information on how you can implement some of these resources. And then, of course, we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. Throughout the session, we would love it if you put some of those questions into the Q&A section so that we can get to those and answer them. We are going to ask a few little engagement pieces throughout that we'll have you answer in the chat, but for your questions, if you don't mind putting those in the Q&A, so we make sure that we don't leave any of those out.
All right, thank you so much for the intro, Andrea. Let me go ahead and take over this presentation. All right, let me share my screen. Let's get started with on how to apply for state financial aid. And today I want to highlight some key points that you want to keep in mind as you guide students throughout the financial aid process. First is the January 15th. That's the state priority deadline for financial aid applications. Now, this isn't a hard deadline. Students can still apply after this date, but I recommend that you encourage them to apply by January 15th. Honestly, I recommend the second the applications are available to apply, just because many institutions use January 15th as a method to prioritize limited funding. And all students interested in applying for financial aid are encouraged in applying for or reviewing the requirements for the FAFSA. Completing the FAFSA allows them to be considered not only for federal aid, but also for state and institutional aid opportunities. And it is important to note that students should not complete both the FAFSA and the TASFA. They should complete one or the other. So if a student is eligible to submit a FAFSA, that should be their first step. And if they're not completing the FAFSA, then they can submit the TASFA to be considered for state financial aid. So in short, it is important for students to determine which application they need to submit, and they must submit their application by January 15. Now, you all play a critical role in helping students understand the financial aid process. Many students and family have questions about which application they should complete and where to submit it. Knowing how to guide students through these distinctions will help save them time and ensure their applications are processed correctly. So here are some common application questions that we receive. The first one is, if the student can fill out the FAFSA, should they also fill out the TASFA to get state financial aid? The answer is no. Students who are eligible to complete the FAFSA should only complete the FAFSA. Submitting both is not necessary and can often cause confusion in the process or additional documentation that needs to be submitted to the school. So students should only fill out the application that they are eligible to fill out. Now, should a student submit their paper TASFA to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board? No, the TASFA should not be submitted to the coordinating board. Students need to submit their TASFA directly to the financial aid office at the college they plan to attend. Each college may have specific instructions, so students should reach out to their financial aid office for guidance. Okay, so now that we have gone over some general application information, let's dig deeper into the online TASFA. When guiding students in completing the TASFA, it's helpful to remember that while the FAFSA and the TASFA may collect much of the same information, the two applications differ in how they operate. The online TASFA does not include the IRS data link or document upload features that are built into the FAFSA. Students will need to provide their financial aid information manually on the application and may be asked to submit supporting documents, or they may be asked to submit supporting documentation directly to the college that they submit their TASFA to. And unlike the FAFSA, the TASFA does not autofill from the prior year's application. Students will have to enter all of their information each year as they start a fresh TASFA application. And the TASFA does not generate a student aid index or SAI calculation. Instead, each college will review the TASFA and determine eligibility for state aid. Another important difference is that the TASFA does not allow edits after submission. If the student makes a mistake, they will need to work with the financial aid office at the college they plan to attend to correct the discrepancy. And finally, the online TASFA is not available in Spanish. Students who need the Spanish version will need to use the paper TASFA instead. Another key difference between the FAFSA and the TASFA is who needs to create an account. On the FAFSA, the parent spouse, and the student spouse, if applicable, need to create an FSA account to complete their portion of the application. With the TASFA, they do not need to do that. Only the student is required to create an account and fill out all the information in the application. Parents of dependent students are emailed a secure view-only copy of the TASFA to review, and they must answer 3 security questions to access that version in order to acknowledge the information on their student's TASFA. Now, just as a note, students and parents should avoid temporary or school work email addresses to ensure that their email has, and to also ensure that their email has enough storage to receive notifications to ensure they receive all important application updates via email. So now that we've covered application basics, let's look into 2026-27 application updates. Starting with the TASFA is expected to launch on October 1st of this year. And most updates for the 26-27 TASFA are based on feedback from institutions and the drafted 26-27 FAFSA updates. So let's cover what those updates are. Now, we've received feedback from institutions that some students were completing the application for the wrong year. For example, students sometimes submitted the 25-26 TASFA when they intended to complete the 26-27 application and vice versa. Previously, students could only confirm which application year they were completing at the very start of the application. And once they were in the middle of the application filling it out, there is no clear way to verify the year. To address this, the 26-27 application year has been added to the top of the application in all sections of the application. And this update helps students either reassure themselves that they are completing the correct application or identify if they are on the wrong year application and if they need to switch to the appropriate application. And by making this update, we reduce errors to ensure students are completing the correct TASFA for the correct financial aid cycle. Another update is that all date of birth fields on the TASFA have been modified to prevent selection errors. Previously, students sometimes entered incorrect years, such as 2025 or 1900 as their birth year, which caused mistakes that could delay processing or require additional corrections from the student. This update helps ensure students enter accurate birth dates. And it's important to remind students to double check their entries when completing the application to avoid any delays in processing and errors. Question 46, which collected dependency determination information based on whether an applicant has earned a graduate degree, was removed from the TASFA. And this just aligns the TASFA with the FAFSA, which removed this question in prior application years. Oops. Apologies for that. So question 46, which previously collected dependency determination information based on whether an applicant has earned a graduate degree, has been removed from the TASFA. This also aligns the TASFA with the FAFSA, which updated these sections in prior application years. So this is how the question looks for the 25-26 application. And this is how the questions look now for 26-27. Question 54 is now a conditional question, meaning it only appears based on the student's answer to question 53. So this helps guide students throughout the application, showing only relevant questions and reducing confusion. Now, in the 26-27 TASFA, questions 65 and 72, which both previously collected Parent 1 and Parent 2's highest level of education, have been combined into a single question into question 57. This is how the questions looked in for 25-26. And this is how the question looks now for 26-27. So this change just reduces redundancy in the application, making it easier for students and families to provide this information accurately. Okay, so starting with our first question. So write your answer in the chat. So what specific information does a student need to fill out the TASFA? Write your answer in the chat. Do they need a license? Or do they need their tax information? Yeah, I see income taxes, parent tax information, date of birth, demographics, parent income info. Okay, some really good answers so far. All of this is correct. Okay, so we don't determine what supporting documentation is needed for TASFA applicants, but all the information on here, you do need to enter your income information into the TASFA, your demographics, and your income information. So that is correct. But when it comes to supporting documentation, that's not something that we determine at the coordinating board. That's determined by each school. Each school can vary in their policies and procedures. So it's always best for the student to reach out to the school that they're planning to attend for information on supporting documentations and any next steps on submitting the TASFA. Okay, so now this is very relevant because depending on who or what type of questions that a student has, in this case, Ben, he has questions regarding the TASFA, who exactly does he need to talk to? Now, when supporting students with the TASFA, there are a few areas where they may need additional guidance or help, and who may be able to help them depends on their inquiry. So the coordinating board can only assist with technical issues completing the online TASFA, general questions about the TASFA, if the student is experiencing account access issues, and questions about coordinating board web pages and resources. Now, if the student has questions on any next steps after submitting the TASFA, information on required documentation after the TASFA has been submitted, or complex questions completing the TASFA, we always recommend that they reach out to the college that they're planning to attend. Now that we have covered who to contact if a student has additional questions, let's move on to dependent student scenarios. These are questions we frequently receive from students and can help you anticipate common situations. And by reviewing the scenarios, you'll be better prepared to guide dependent students and their families through the TASFA process. Starting with, what if a dependent student cannot provide parent information on the TASFA? So in this case, the online TASFA does not allow students to skip providing parent information. So we always recommend for the student to contact the financial aid office at the school they're planning to attend to coordinate any next steps if they cannot provide parent information. Now, what if the student has two parents that are married or living together? So both parents' information will be needed on the TASFA. Parent will need to acknowledge the information entered on the application for the student to submit their application. And correction, this should say if the student has two parents that are not married or two parents that are, actually, never mind, this question is correct. Now, what if the student has two parents that are divorced or are not living together and not remarried? The parent that supported the student the most financially over the 12-month period before the TASFA is submitted will need to report their information on the TASFA as parent one. Now, what if the student has two parents that are divorced or not living together and one or both are remarried? So the parent who provided the most support during the 12 months before submitting the TASFA must report their information as parent one. And if that parent is remarried, the step parent must report their information as parent two. Now, what if the student lives with a guardian or relatives and their parents live in another country? So unless the guardian or relative has legally adopted the student, they should not provide their information on the TASFA. The student must still include their parents' information, even if they're living in another country. Without it, the online TASFA cannot be completed, and the student may need to contact the college for additional assistance. Now, with that, we're back at our knowledge assessment. Let's quickly see where everyone is at their TASFA knowledge base. Now, regardless of your answer, we're here to help. So if you have any questions in the future, you can always contact us. But how do you feel your knowledge base is at this time? Okay, I see some beginners and intermediates. That is completely fine. We're here to help you out. If you have any questions, I am available to answer questions that you may have on the TASFA and after this presentation as well. So did I miss any questions, Andrea?
I haven't seen any come into the Q&A, so we'll go ahead and transition over to ApplyTexas.
Awesome. If you guys have any questions regarding the TASFA throughout the presentation, feel free to put them in the Q&A and I'll be here to answer them.
Andrea, I see some in there.
Oh yeah, I do. There's a couple that just came in. Sorry.
Came in quick.
Yes.
Let's
So
see.
will you be reviewing the new eligibility requirements to complete the TASFA?
The TASFA eligibility requirements have not changed.
And then if a student was born in the US, but parents work full-time in Mexico, how would they complete parent income portion of FAFSA? Or would the student use TASFA?
So when it comes to a student who was born in the US, typically they will fill out the FAFSA. So it is recommended that they fill out the FAFSA. Of course, they would have to check the FAFSA website for further information on who is eligible to fill out the FAFSA. But for the most part, yes, a US citizen will fill out the FAFSA, not the TASFA.
Great. And then what funding will be made available to students via the TASFA, especially in reference to the governor's declaration about in-state tuition?
So when it comes to the TASFA and in-state tuition are two different things. A student should check with their institution to verify if they are considered an in-state or they are eligible for in-state tuition and for state financial aid. The TASFA is just a mechanism used to determine a student's to help a school determine a student's eligibility for financial aid. So I recommend for the students or for students to speak to their school to determine their eligibility for in-state aid and tuition.
And then does a student need to be considered in-state to qualify for the TASFA?
So the TASFA is just an application. That's all it is. Anyone can fill out the TASFA, but once the school receives the TASFA, they will determine if a student is eligible for financial aid. So if a student is wants to know more information on their eligibility for state financial aid, they will have to speak to the college they're planning to attend.
Awesome. Thanks to Giselle. Yeah, those are all the questions that we have so far, but continue to put those in the Q&A and we can answer them throughout and also have some time at the end to answer them as well. So we'll shift gears to ApplyTexas and I'll let Claudette take over.
Great, thank you both. So let's dive into ApplyTexas Counselor Suite. For those of you who are new to ApplyTexas, The Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board oversees the Apply Texas system as established in state legislation. The Apply Texas system consists of 3 main portals along with a centralized help desk. There is first the applicant portal, which you're most familiar with, where students submit admission applications to public and many private colleges and universities across Texas. There is also the administrative portal, which is used by institutions to customize their admission applications. And of course, what we're here to talk about today is the Counselor Suite, which provides authorized high school counselors with student level data to track their students' Apply Texas admission applications, as well as their financial aid filing status. To obtain access to the Counselor Suite, your school district must have a signed agreement with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. The Coordinating Board partners with several designated individuals at each of the 20 regional education service service centers, and these are known as our Apply Texas ESC contacts. The ESC contacts authorize users in the Counselor Suite. You can find a list of these ESC contacts on the Counselor Suite page under Request Access. Once an agreement is signed, the coordinating board staff notifies those ESC contacts who may then begin authorizing users for the school district. All counselors at public high schools are eligible for access, and authorization is granted at the discretion of the school district office. Most school districts already have an agreement on file with our agency. However, if your district needs to start the agreement process or you need to check your agreement status, we'll drop those links here in the chat so you can check that. After you are authorized and your account is set up, you will receive an email with login instructions. So once your account is created, your ESC contact will assign your specific permissions or roles in the Counselor Suite. If you are assigned the counselor role, you'll be able to view Apply Texas admissions applications and financial aid filing status information for the students at your high school who use Apply Texas. Counselor access is granted for one high school and for 1 year at a time. Some individuals are then can be assigned to a district counselor role, and this is where it allows them to see student level data across multiple high schools within that district. And finally, our ESC representatives, those contacts that you can request permission from, play a very unique role. They're authorized by the coordinating board to assign user permissions, but they do not have access to student level data. So as I mentioned earlier, the Counselor Suite is a completely separate portal from the applicant portal and the administrative portal. To access it, you'll need to go to www.counselor.applytexas.org, or you can visit applytexas.org and then scroll to the bottom right page of the corner where you'll find a link to the Counselor Suite. It's very important to double check that you are in the Counselor Suite and not in the applicant portal. If you have accounts in more than one portal, so say you've signed up, to help a student, or to view the applicant portal, and then you have the Counselor Suite access as well, you must use different email addresses for each one and log in separately. Using the same email address across different portals, either portal will definitely cause login problems. One way to know if you're if you have multiple accounts is when you sign in. If you are not prompted for a multi-factor authentication, it's a sign that you have accidentally used the same email for another portal. When you log in correctly with the Counselor Suite email and password, you'll be asked to complete multi-factor authentication. A code will then be sent to your email address that's associated with that particular portal, and then you'll enter the code, click continue, and then proceed to your account. When you log in as a counselor, you'll land on the counselor dashboard, and this provides information, again, specific to your high school. You will see a slightly different screen. It really just depends on the permission or the role that you're assigned to in your account. From this dashboard, you'll have multiple entry points to view student data and access other features of the portal. So here on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see your school's name, your ESC contact information, a link to training resources, and a way to contact our help desk and some of our FAQs. At the top of the Counselor Suite dashboard, you can navigate to your student data. You can also view ApplyTexas application counts and use the school search feature, or also access reports and downloads. In the center of this page, you'll also notice these cards. These are also shortcuts that also take you to other sections of the portal. Okay, so once you get to the Use Your Students page of the Counselor Suite, when you navigate here, you'll find a list of your students who have used ApplyTexas. At the top, you'll see a summary of your students that provides a quick snapshot of the number of students using ApplyTexas. You'll also see a number of students who have submitted applications and the number of students who have submitted a financial aid application. On this page, you can also search for a specific student by their name. You can query a list of all students who have applied to a specific institution. You can also search by ApplyTexas application status, which will show you a list of students who have an application that may have been open, submitted, or expired. And then you can also search by financial aid filing status, which will show a list of students that have complete or incomplete status. Okay. On that same page, when you scroll down on the same Your Students page, you have two very important and useful reports that you can download. At the top, you'll see them kind of highlighted here by the arrow, but there is the ApplyTexas Applications Report. This will generate an Excel file that includes your student's name, date of birth, email, institutions that they've applied to, their application IDs, the semester that they applied. It'll also show the date and time that they submitted their application, the application status in general, and the type of application that they may have applied to, whether it's a 2-year or 4-year. This is a perfect way for tracking which student, for the student in their application process. Additionally, you'll see this other button where it says Financial Aid Applications Report. Here's where you can generate an Excel file that includes the student's name, their financial aid filing status, whether the student was selected for verification, and the completion date. This financial aid filing status includes data from both the FAFSA and TASFA. So the Counselor Suite does not distinguish which application the student completed. It just simply shows the financial aid filing status. It's important to remember that the data that's in the Counselor Suite comes from 3 main sources. The first is the ApplyTexas application data, and this is what the applicant enters into the application. It's pass-through data, meaning that institutions pull it from the ApplyTexas application and import it into their processing systems. Then there is FAFSA data, and that is provided to our agency from the U.S. Department of Education. And we also have the TASFA data that is from the Texas application for state financial aid that Giselle went over. It's maintained and managed here at the coordinating board. This year, the agency has instated a new process to turn off the financial aid filing status data for the past financial aid cycle, the 2025-26 cycle, and that's going to start happening on or around September 1 of each year. The agency aligns their receipt of the FAFSA data with the Department of Education, as we mentioned earlier. And this year, we expect to launch the next financial aid filing status into the Counselor Suite by early November, possibly earlier, but we will send communication when it is available in the Counselor Suite. Finally, here in the main table of this slide, you'll see a quick snapshot for each student. There's that first column is their Apply Texas application status for the student. And then the second column is a financial aid marker to quickly see a student's financial aid filing status, where you'll see a red X, meaning that it's incomplete, and a green check mark will indicate complete. So you'll see here that if the student was selected for verification as well. When you click the see more details right there on the right hand side of the screen, it'll indicate, you can dive in deeper to the student's information. You'll see more information about their application status, and also find for the student at the very bottom of the slide, you can see their financial aid filing status and the date it was completed. And when you click directly on the student's name, you can see additional details and any required next steps that the student must take. So I'll go over a couple of new features in the Counselor Suite really quickly. So when you navigate at the top of the screen, you can go to Application Counts. Here you can view ApplyTexas application data in multiple ways. You can filter to view all ApplyTexas application data, either statewide, filter by a TEA region, school district, or high school. This will only show ApplyTexas application information. It does not show FAFSA or TASFA or filing status information. Okay, the Counselor Suite includes the same school search feature as the applicant portal, or what your students might see. So you can search multiple institutions across the state to look up information such as the admission deadlines, the payment that may be needed, or essay requirements, which can be really helpful tool when you're advising your students. On the reports and downloads page, you can access a variety of resources. Here you'll find training documents, and you can download a hard copy of the undergraduate application under application previews. In addition to the reports that you saw on the Your Students page, there's also a link to ApplyTexas application data under reports. These reports provide aggregate application data for all students in Texas, and it's organized by application cycle and academic year. The academic year runs from August 1st through July 31st of the following year. And that data is really grouped by graduating class, for example, class of 2025, class of 2026. We really want to note that you read the description for each report. It explains what's included in the time frame covered. Two key reports that we think might be useful for you is the next application count report, which is unduplicated applicant counts and is updated weekly. And then there's the high school academic year total application count. And this is a total number of submitted applications. And this might be a higher number for a single, school, because, students may submit more than one application. This is updated monthly. All of these reports are in an Excel file, and the data for each school district and high school across the state can be broken down by class year. One very important note is that we do not currently provide an aggregate report for financial aid data in this section. It is application data only. But you can find your high school's financial aid data under the financial aid application report under the Your Students page. So we'll take a quick quiz. Here's a true or false question, and you can answer in the chat. So question is, true or false? Counselors can use the ApplyTexas Counselor Suite to view financial aid status and applications submitted through ApplyTexas. Okay, it looks like we have lots of positive answers. Yes. So I see, yes, the answer is true. You can view both the status of the FAFSA and TASFA for your students, but you are not able to view the status of college applications that have been submitted outside of ApplyTexas, such as Common App or those submitted directly to an institution. So real quickly, I wanted to share a couple of resources for you. The coordinating board has created a web page called Redesigned ApplyTexas. which provides additional resources for both K-12 and institutional partners. On this page, you can find, again, a hard copy of the U.S. freshman application, which is outside of the login that you have to use, so it's available there on the web page. There's several instructional videos on how to log in to Apply Texas and how to find the right application for your students. And there's some past communications that include updates to the Apply Texas system. Here's a link that you can go and stay informed and receive those updates directly by the Apply Texas system just by visiting that web page as well. You can go to the site and you'll find a link that says to sign up. And here's how you can, when you sign up, you'll be added to our listserv, and then you can receive those relevant Apply Texas communications. And finally, for technical support and questions, you can visit our applytexas.org /contact and click Contact Us. This will get you to our Apply Texas Help Desk. It's managed and maintained by a group of individuals that can answer your questions. So if you submit a ticket, please be sure to respond directly to any of the inquiries that you get from that email address. At this site, you can also check the status of any open tickets that you might have if you submit one by providing your case number and email address. So let us know if you have any questions. That's a quick overview of the Counselor Suite, and I will hand it over to, I think, Josh.
Thanks, Claudette. All right, everyone. So I am here to talk with you about some of our great resources that we have. And the first thing that I want to mention is the brand new Texas On-Course Academy that just launched a few weeks ago. If you had a chance to check it out, this is a completely refreshed site full of new modules. So if you're somebody who's completed the Academy before, this is going to be refreshed content. A lot has changed over the last couple of years with legislation and just what's happening in education. And if we want to go to the next slide, you can just see a little bit of a layout here with how this is going to look. Very familiar, like I said, if you've already been in here before. But if you haven't, great thing is you can come in, make a free account, and then this is going to give you access to all of these different modules. So as you go through, not only are you learning on whichever topic that you would like, anything from financial aid to career and advising, academic development, you can look at these from different levels as well too. So you can look at them if you're working at the middle school level, high school level, or in the post-secondary level as well. And then as you'll go through, you'll keep track of your progress, which will give you credits. And then you'll also be able to access specific resources, templates, and other good things. And I'll actually focus in on some of these now. If we could please go to the next slide. This is an example of what the financial aid and literacy course is going to look like. If you log in here, you're going to see 5 different modules. You'll see everything from FAFSA, TASFA, state aid and scholarship. You'll see a module over highly selective scholarships, and then also how to finance post-secondary education and training. And next slide, please. So if you were to click on the TASFA slide of this, the great thing about it, like I said, if in a couple weeks, maybe sometime in October, you need to refresh your memory, this is a great place to come. I know a lot of people will use these over the summer as well too. If you're somebody who's been in the education or advising game for a long time, you can use these to refresh your memory. Or if you know somebody who's new at your campus or in your district who's looking to learn more about these, of course, we offer our free webinars, but you can go to these during the summer and kind of catch up and prep for your year to plan. And something that I really like about these modules as well is not only are you learning, but there's so much practical implementation for counselors and advisors to help build activities throughout the year. So for example, you'll see ideas here for financial aid nights, if you're using this for any kind of group advising or classroom advising sessions, of course, the one-on-one, and then things that you can use as far as handouts, checklists, resources that are already created. So you're not having to make as much from scratch or search for these things all over the internet. So a lot of great things that you can take away here. And if you'd like to use any of the videos, you see one of those featured in the screenshot here too. A lot of times these are just 1 or 2 minute videos that you can use in your sessions, show them the students, show them at parent nights, whatever it is. And they really just make it easy to digest and make the information a lot more accessible. And next slide, please. For our college application systems module, this is where you'll see we have some specific information on the counselor advisor, the counselor suite that was mentioned. So again, you'll see FAQs mentioned here. You'll have links to tech support. And again, just kind of an overview, because you may have been taking in this information right now and thinking, okay, cool, I got this. And then in a couple of weeks, you're like, oh my gosh, what were they saying about XYZ? This gives you an easy all-in-one place to come back and review that information. And another thing that you can find through Texas OnCourse are our financial aid toolkits. So these are especially helpful because, as we know, financial aid, FAFSA, TASFA, it takes a village many times. And so these toolkits you can find, the easiest way I found to access them is if you click on the Educators tab, you'll see a lot of links that you can go to. And under the popular links, you'll see the financial aid Texas graduation requirement, which will give you access to all 4 of these toolkits. They're for counselors and advisors. Again, tons of ideas, tons of ways that you can implement this throughout the entire school year to stay on top of your financial aid goals for your students. But then some great toolkits as well for community partners. If you already have some that you collaborate with, or if you're looking for ideas on who would be good to collaborate with, how you can do that. Toolkits as well for families and for students. And I'd like to also remind you about our upcoming webinars that we have. I see a sample of the schedule here. These are always free, brand new topics that are based upon your feedback. So we really appreciate all the feedback that you give us when you register for these, or anything that you just send in. We really take that into account. And then we're finding expert speakers, just like the ones that you heard today, to talk about these topics. So on Thursday, we'll have our Tiny Take session that will be happening over Advi, the chat box there, which really pairs well with a lot of your applications and ApplyTexas goals. So these will be happening throughout the year. So be sure to check in and register for those in advance. All right.
All right, thank you, Josh. And with all of the information that we shared, I know, Lauren, you've been dropping in a lot of links in the chat. Thank you so much for that. We also have some quick links and resources provided on this page for you. And if you scan that QR code, it will also give you all of the resources and all the links that we covered today. And if we missed any, we will include those in our follow-up email. And as I mentioned in the chat earlier, we are going to provide all of our resources, our slide deck, and a recording of this sent out to everyone who registered. So even if you know somebody who wasn't able to show up today, they're still going to get a recording and the slide decks from this session. So as we are moving forward, just want to be able to give some time for Q&A. We've got about 10 minutes left. So if you have any additional questions, please drop those into the Q&A. I know some people are dropping them in the chat. It's a little easier for us to manage if they are in the Q&A. So please put those in the Q&A. And while we're answering those, of course, we would love feedback. TxCAN would love feedback. Our financial aid team would love feedback. Claudette would love feedback. Our team would love feedback. So if you guys don't mind just giving us a little bit of feedback and providing any other information that you all have questions about going forward. As you know, this school year just started. We're, all in this together. So if there's any other topics that you're interested in, as Josh said, we do take all of your feedback into consideration as we're planning these sessions, because we want to make sure that we're meeting you where you're at and how we can best support you. So please take a moment to share your feedback and ask us any additional questions that you may have.
I'm just going through the chat here. I'm just going through the chat really quickly, and I do want to call out 2 questions that we got earlier in our chat box. This one is from Nancy. It is for Claudette. She says, I am the only school counselor at the Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Can you tell me if our school, we are our own school district, and a state agency have the agreement so a counselor can create a login?
I'd have to look into it. I don't know off the top of my head for this particular school. So, let's see, counselor, can you tell me if our school? But yeah, we can check into that. Let me, are you able to drop your email address in the chat for us? And
Yeah,
I can
Nancy,
check
if you're,
that for you.
yeah, perfect. Thank you, Claudette. So Nancy, if you're still on, if you could just drop your email real quickly in the chat, we'll definitely get back to you about your question. And then we had one more from Tracy, Claudette. She's just saying, I cannot email my representative for approval. She's in Region 5. The link is not active.
Yeah, let me give you our email address so that you can, I'll drop it in the chat. I think I have it here so that you can email us at this email address and we can take care of that for you. We can connect on what your next steps can be. And this is to Tracy and anyone else who would like this email address. Oh, sorry, I put
Perfect.
it in the, hold on, let me send it to everybody. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you, Claudette.
Thank you. Didn't catch those. Thanks, Lauren.
No worries. I believe those were the only 2 that I saw. Thank you guys, everyone, for putting them in the Q&A. Really appreciate that. I didn't see any others, and I don't see any others in the Q&A.
All right. Well, then, if you guys have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us. But we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for joining with us today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.